Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 9, 2026 edition of the quarterly Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Council meeting. I'm Jeff Mayfield and wanted to welcome everybody for their attendance, both in person and those that are with us online. So I think maybe for just starters, we'll go around the table for the different council members and introduce yourself and who you represent and what category you represent. Maybe we'll just start with Scott and go around counterclockwise.
You're going to do that, so I didn't pull up my.
Oh, sorry,
but that's okay. I'll start. I'll try my best to remember that. So, good morning, everyone. Scott Triebus, Services, and I represent a company that's in the business of solid waste and operations.
Morning, I'm Frank Pugsley with Park Hill, and I represent a professional engineer in private practice with experience in solid waste permitting and operation.
Morning, Judge Fielder, representing county underneath 100,000.
I'm Jeff Mayfield, North Texas Municipal Water District, represents Public Solid Waste District or Authority.
Good morning. My name is Steve Shannon. I represent a public conservation organization.
Risa Weinberger with Risa Weinberger and Associates, and I represent composters and environmental educators.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Chuck Red. I work for Waste Management in Texas. I represent a professional with experience managing or operating a commercial waste facility.
Charlie Fritz, Deputy Director of the Waste Permits Division in TCEQ.
Megan Henson, Manager of Municipal Solid Waste Permits at TCEQ.
Ani Aras, Technical Specialist at MSWRRAC. TCEQ.
Technical specialist.
Patty Howard, Project Manager with MSWRRAC.
All right.
And from here, I will go ahead and take roll for those attending their teams. Richard Bromwitz.
Here and represent the general public.
Robin Alaniz.
Yes, I'm on the Goliad City Council and I represent cities under 20,000.
Seth Cunningham.
Yep, Seth Cunningham with New Gen Strategies and Solutions and represent the financial community.
Buck Lively. Brock Lively. He's here, I just don't see you here.
Yes.
I'll go on. Thomas Parker.
Tom Parker here. I represent All American Tire, and now I represent Liberty Tire for the waste tire program.
And Scott Pasternak.
All right, great. So first up on our agenda, which is quite full today, we have Charlie Fritz providing the Waste Permits Division update.
Yes, morning, y'all. So
Hi.
First up, agency-wide, we are preparing for the FIFA World Cup, the activities in Dallas, Houston, wherever else there, and even though those are the cities where matches are occurring, where we have the understanding that teams will be staying in other places as well. And so we're preparing for those activities agency-wide. Don't quite know how much of an impact it will be on the waste management side, but we are kind of just thinking through it. So as you all are preparing for increased waste amounts, if we need to have any discussions about temporary authorizations for rates or storage or amounts, come talk to us beforehand. So we're just trying to figure out if there is going to be an impact or not. But if you think of anything, just, like I said, just come talk to us beforehand. Wanted to let y'all know EPA is proposing mandating electronic manifest for hazardous waste. And in Texas, we require people to use that manifest for Class 1 waste. So we're working through the impact and determining what to do about that. If we keep using the EPA manifest for Class 1 waste, or just kind of looking through those options. So it impacts the landfills that have class 1 cells. But if you have any questions, comments, come talk to us. I'm happy to hear and discuss about how using the EPA manifest impacts class 1 transportation and waste handling. We are the rulemaking for the HB 3229, the renewable energy components, the recyclers that handle renewable energy components went to proposal. It was approved to go to proposal. So we're in the comment period right now. The comment period closes April 27th. There's a public hearing on April 23rd. So the proposed rules are out there. It follows very closely to the statute, chapter 376, Texas Health and Safety Code. So it follows pretty closely to that with a couple of additions just to have a functioning program. And then legislative interim charges for the state legislators came out for both the House and Senate, I guess a week and a half ago. The House, which one's the easier one to start with? The House had a specific one about our implementation of HB 4413. That was the renewable renewable biomass feedstocks. So the mass balance attribution, renewable biomass feedstocks. We went to proposal for that one late December, so late last year. So that one's moving, but interim charges are kind of just updates to the committees on specific targets, specific items that the committee wants to hear about. So they'll just ask for updates. So the two on the House, like I said, HB 4413, and then also there's a more general one on improving the regulatory process. And so the House, this is environmental regs. And so the House, they're just they're going to get input from the agency and probably anybody that wants to comment on the overall regulatory process, streamlining the permitting process, reducing unnecessary duplicative regulatory requirements. So if you have legislative staff or want to know more about that, you can talk to me, but that is going on. So that's something the agency will do. We'll answer questions as needed, prepare testimony as needed, but that's happening during the summer. That was the House. The Senate is focusing on the Senate Natural Resources. Is that the one? Yeah. Is looking at continuing the responsible renewable energy decommissioning. So wind and solar, continuing pretty much HB 3229 and continuing to look at the implementation and kind of how those wind and solar facilities are being decommissioned, the impacts to landowners, seeing if they're being properly decommissioned. So that's probably, and it mentions proper recycling and disposal. So that's how we're probably going to get tied into it. Those are the ones kind of specific to waste permits. There's a couple more broad ones that impact the agency. And then the big target seems to be data centers right now. So data centers have produced waters where there's probably not a direct waste permits impact, but just because how hearings go, if they go in a direction, we may get pulled in, having to answer questions on all that. That's any questions about legislative? Okay.
I would think on the data centers, the main media focus would be water and wastewater.
Yes, it usually is, and that's where the conversation is starting, but they can go in any direction, especially at hearings. So I would imagine I'd probably have to be there just in case the random tangents that elected officials can go on.
Right. Like you said, that's besides the electrical part.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or follow up to Charlie's update? Okay. Thank you. All right. Anna, second roll.
Yes.
Pasternak.
Good morning, everybody. Scott Pasternak, representing the general public with Burns & McDonnell.
Everybody.
All right, great. Okay, next is the MSW update, permit section update, and turn it over to Megan.
Great, thanks. So starting off with the usual, the vacancies, we have 3 vacancies right now. We actually had our team leader for Team 2, Burgess Stengel. He retired at the end of March. So we are lucky he gave us enough notice. So we're only going to have a 1-month gap without a team leader for Team 2. And I'll announce that at a later date. But May 1st, we'll have a new team leader in place. And aside from that, we have 1 engineer position that's vacant and 1 environmental permit specialist engineer that's vacant. Environmental permit specialist that's vacant. And we're working to fill that EPS right now. For our major applications under review, we have 15 permits and 4 registrations. This is a little bit lower than we've seen for our standard, which is usually about 25 total, between 20 and 25. But that doesn't mean we're resting and just waiting around, twiddling our thumbs. The interesting thing is we had all those applications that were approved in the past few years. They're now coming in with their liner reports, their authorization to accept ways, construction, all of that after the permit is issued kind of work. So we have a lot of additional reports that are coming in that we're reviewing. We're also taking this opportunity to go through our SOPs, look for efficiencies in our processes as well. Moving on, of course, we have to mention trade fair. I'm sorry, Maddie, threw you off. So trade fair is coming up May 19th and 20th in San Antonio at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. And MSW Permits is presenting on the 19th, which is Tuesday. We have the agenda available online, and I believe everyone from MSWRRAC who asked for a or complimentary registration has received that, or at least your information is.
I have not.
Okay, then it's coming because your information was turned in.
Okay.
So yeah, be on the lookout. Let me know if a few weeks goes by and you haven't received any.
Okay.
We'll send a reminder. I guess if anybody else forgot to send an email, let us know after this meeting and we'll get you added to the list.
So just a quick reminder of what we'll be covering for trade fair for the MSW track. We're going to have that regulatory guidance on exiting post-closure care. We're going to go through that now that it's been approved, it's been out there. We're going to take some time just going through the final document. Alternative liner design. This is actually going to be an external speaker, but Jeffrey Young from Weaver. So him and actually Nezat Turan will also be presenting. Then in the afternoon, we're going to go over liner reports. So how to expeditiously get a liner report approved, common issues that we see, how to avoid them. We're really looking forward to that one. Then waste acceptance and special waste. So again, just taking that time to explain the importance of a waste acceptance plan and the benefits of adding special waste to your permit or your registration. And lastly, we're going to cover groundwater sampling and reporting. The second half of the presentation is going to be a preview for the e-reporting system that we've been working on for about 2 or 3 years now, forever, but 2 or 3 years. It's under development. We're really hoping that next year we'll have a lot of the track dedicated to groundwater and focus on the e-reporting, but you'll at least get a preview of what's being developed. So any questions about trade fair? We hope to see you all there. Okay, next I want to cover a change in our application procedures for major applications and MSW permits. As part of that efficiency component that we're looking for, previously we sent what's called an application summary to different state agencies. So TxDOT being one, Texas Parks and Wildlife, local governments, and most of the time the applicants never even saw this document. It was something that we filled out. It was very close to what our technical summary looks like, a little more information here and there. So we would send this document to these agencies and ask them to review the application summary, let them know where they could find the full permit application, and to provide any comments. And we had 30 days timeline for them to provide comments. And what we found was we weren't really getting much coordination. We were already getting comments either the applicant was receiving comments directly from these agencies that they have to get approvals and coordination from, or we were getting comments from these agencies through our public forum that anyone in the public can submit comments through. So we really assessed, how we could improve this. And so we decided to change the process where now we're going to no longer send an application summary and have that 30-day waiting period. And now the agencies are notified through the public notices, through the NORI, which is the first notice that goes out with an administrative review, or the NAFD, which is the second notice that goes out once a decision has been made. And then also relying on the applicants to coordinate with these agencies, which isn't new. We've asked for coordination letters, as far as I can tell, many, many years, probably decades at this point. So we're going to just, be extra diligent to make sure we have those coordination letters. And on certain agencies, we do need a response. So TxDOT is one of the main ones that we've asked for a response from. Texas Parks and Wildlife is another one, because we do rely on them to review that biological assessment. So that's the change that on y'all's end, hopefully you won't notice a difference, but for us, we're seeing this as a time saving. Any questions on the applications?
You may have said it and I didn't pick up on it. Is that something that's in place now?
Yes.
Out to be? Okay.
Yes, sorry. It was effective March 1st.
March 1st.
And we did let these agencies know so they didn't feel like they got ghosted by TCEQ. We let them know, send an email to the contacts that we had on file and said, please submit comments through our public comment format or directly to the applicant. A question?
What if an agency, not to pick on anybody, but let's just say TxDOT decides that they don't want to respond.
This is something we understand happens. It'd probably be a case by case. We haven't, surprisingly, TxDOT is one of the more responsive ones. So we would need to look at that and see how to proceed. Any other questions?
I may be off on the detail part, but I'll pose it anyway. So on the form where you're listing, like, for example, for using TxDOT, the local district office, is this notice going to like the central office, or does it go to the address that's on that form for the district office?
So previously for TxDOT in particular, it was going to the main office.
Okay. And that'll continue?
No, it will go to the
okay.
office that's listed on the Part 1 form.
Got it. Okay.
Next up, a change with TCEQ is we now have what's called TCEQ Send. This is a new way to send files like applications, reports, notice of deficiency responses to MSW permits. So this is an agency-wide platform. You may have used our FTPS, right, file transfer protocol site, I think is what it's called. That's actually discontinuing in about a week. So TCEQ Send will be the way to submit files to us. The cool thing with this is it is a more secure, both for you as a user and for us as an agency. There's malware scanning that's included. So it's just more secure way for us to receive files. And I wanted to walk you through, because MSW permits does have a specific, basically a specific platform to use, how you can find this. We try to plaster this all over our web pages. So it should be easy to find, but this is just an example of one of our main application web pages. This is for a type 1, this is for landfills, transfer stations, and processors. We have similar instructions on our recycling page, compost pages, all of those. So if you scroll down, you'll see information for submitting applications. And when you click on the hyperlink, this gives you a very high level walkthrough of here's what to do. And if you click on the hyperlink TCEQ Send, and you can bookmark this as well once you get started, you'll see this page that says, please authenticate to continue. We're going to spare Maddie having to authenticate her email address, and instead, here's a screenshot. Can you see that a bit, Maddie? So here's what it looks like when you log in. Your email address will be the one that you logged in with, so that'll be auto-filled. You cannot change that. But if you're sending something to MSW permits, all these fields are required. So provide a subject, facility name, a permit or registration number. If you don't have one, put NA or XXXX, whatever you decide. The submission type, either initial or an NOD. I'm sorry, NOD response. Correspondence type, application report other, a description, and a message. Hey, how's it going? How's your day? You got this. Something encouraging for us to be excited to review. So if you'll scroll down, I hope I captured this. That's it? Okay, sorry, I didn't capture the whole thing. There is a submit button at the bottom, which probably would have been helpful for y'all to see. Apologies for that. And then you'll get an email that says your file was submitted to TCEQ Send. Well,
somewhere to attach the file.
oh yeah, did I really not capture the whole? Dang it. There's also a place, sorry, to attach the file. It's very large. It says attachments here. And you can drag and drop, or you can go search through folders. So I got all excited about the top, the form part. I think it's 485 gigabytes is a file size. So you can upload for days on here. And so you'll get an email that confirms it was sent. We also get an email. This email is going to the MSWPER box. So you do not need to email us files anymore. It will come to us, we'll download it, we'll distribute it to the project managers for review. And we're working on changing our auto reply if you email the SWPER to say, please send documents through TCEQ Send. Need to figure out who has access to that auto reply, and we'll change that. So this is live now. You're welcome to start using it. And like I said, you don't need to copy MSWRRAC. If you want to, while you're getting used to the system, you can absolutely email and say, hey, I just want to confirm y'all received that. We'll double check and let you know, because I know change can be scary, especially when you're submitting something like a liner report that needs to be approved quickly.
Are the regions going to be using something like this? Because a lot of times we have an inspection, us to send permits or documents, et cetera, go through the. And sometimes doesn't go through, or it doesn't really work. It's just something we're looking to add to regions.
So with the FTPS site going away, there should be all across the agency, this will be how to send, especially large files. I don't know if they're going to have individual boxes or not.
We'll ask around. We can go ask OC program support to see if they're going to come up. I imagine they'll have
For each region.
a box for each region.
That'd be helpful.
Will the reports, like liner reports, will they be stored and archived and can be accessed for a certain length of time, like maybe forever?
So not forever.
Okay,
After 7 days, everything is, or after 7 days, the file is removed.
okay.
And we can also request files from you. So if you have something under review and you get a call from the PM and say, hey, this attachment seems to be missing, can you send it? They can actually send you an email that says, please upload.
Do you know, is this already rolled out, or will be for, like, I don't know, like air permits and other?
It should be out already.
Yes.
Yeah. I think April 1st was when it officially went live. We started it just a few days ago. And each program, there's a main portal, but each program has their specific. So air permits has one, MSW permits, IHW, scrap tires, we all have our own.
So that'll be for any other permit application to go through that process.
Yes, but you would need to go to the other permitting divisions for their link.
Yeah, and then you may not know, but I'll ask the stormwater TPDES permit renewal is like August or so, and so will that. Will we be using this process? I mean, not literally this one, but through that department's link, you know, how that's going to happen.
So this is
That's
just
different.
for sharing documents, PDFs,
Okay.
or just sending us, sending attachments to us. That way, and one, because email tends to have that 25 megabyte limit that once you're above that, it says, I'm not going to send it. So that's what this is replacing, is that the FTPS site. And so just really, this is for attachments. We are slowly going to transition to have everything sent to anything you're submitting to waste permits through this, just for the security reason of the MSWPER box, anybody can send it to. We're getting random emails with PDF attachments, and staff are just opening up those emails. And so that is a security risk. So right now, it's especially replacing that transfer website. But we're slowly going to make anytime you're submitting something to us, use this website. So I don't know how stormwater, because it sounds like an application. So I think you can still through Steers.
That's what I was just going to say. The last time, I believe it was Steers, maybe even 5 years before that. So I was just curious.
Yeah, so definitely still use Steers. If there's an application process in Steers, still use Steers for that. We just don't have a lot in Steers except recycling, NOI recycling, optional. And so we just let you submit the whole application via email.
As of right now, the instructions for stormwater from stormwater updates or SWPP updates says use Steer.
Okay.
Thank you, Maddie, for walking us through. All right, last thing I wanted to mention is we've been developing a handbook for MSWRRAC members, just laying out some different information, especially as new members come on board, where meetings are held, how they're held, what proxies are like, just different information like that, resources to use. So we've been working on this, and we'll send it to the council members via email, probably in the next week, for y'all to review, weigh in on. Please provide comments if there's things you like, things we need to add. Let us know.
I'll add it's really y'all's document that we created and will maintain, but we really want it to be what you want it, what the members want it to say to help new members come online, come up to speed.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for me.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions for Megan? Comments? All righty. So next we have Santos Oliveras. Welcome again.
Morning, everybody. And perfect segue on the handbook. My first point here. Last couple of weeks, we lost a member, Ken May with the COG, so it's no longer with the COG. And so that position is now open. And so we have a total of 5 positions that are open. And so we are preparing a notice for nominations that we'll get out to the Texas Register, publish it. Right now, the timeline looks like it's around late April to the first part of May. We'll have a nomination period open up until June 9th to get in applications. And it's going to be real tight to make it for the July meeting because we do have to go before the commission for approval. But then after that, we should have them in by the October meeting in the new fiscal year. We'll also send it out to TARC. We'll send it out and give delivery. Of course, we'll send it out to you all. Y'all can disperse out to colleagues that you may have. And we'll do a little bit more outreach, especially for the government positions, of which we have 4. Now there's 2 positions that are open that will expire on August 31st, 2027. And one, of course, is an elected official for a county with a population of less than 150,000. We also got the representative from the planning region, which is the COG. We have one appointment that is open that expires August 31st of 2029. And that's an elected official from a municipality with a population of 750,000 or more. And then we have two positions open that will expire on August 31st of 2031. And that's an elected official from a municipality of population between 100,000 or more, but less than 750,000. So in that bracket. And then finally, an elected official from a municipality with a population of 25,000 or less, of 25,000 or more, but less than 100,000. And so again, we'll work through this. These positions are open right now. So if you have someone who is interested, who doesn't want to wait for that notice, they can certainly send in their applications right now. We'll start reviewing them. So so those are the 5 positions. Again, be looking for that notice. But again, if you have someone who wants to apply now, they can certainly do that, and we'll look at that. Just a couple other things. SWPPP. So we were notified back in February or so that there possibly could be a phase 2 SWPPP funding. And so they asked if we were interested. We did submit a letter of interest to EPA. And the funding, the overall funding for SWPPP was approved. Our EPA Region 6 is saying that our allocations are going to be around 488,000. We are required to submit an application, which is due May 29th to EPA, and we're working through that. The way it looks, approval will probably be sometime in late May, and then funding won't start until October 1st of this year. So we're working through all that. It will require new contracts for new COGs. We're still kind of working those details out internally, trying to figure out, our game plan on moving through that. We have already gotten contacted by a couple of COGs throughout the state that are interested. So there looks like there will be additional funding, and there will be an initial or additional opportunity for COGs to participate. And then the last thing is that this morning we published on our website the Scrap Tires annual report for 2024. And so come next meeting in July, we'll have a presentation for you on that. Good thing is, again, a high number of tires are being moved to TDF, about 46% of all the tires. So, and landfilling has remained relatively low, 18% of all tires. So again, that is on the website, and when Anna sends out any additional information, we'll include that link for you to get on there. So that's all I have. So again, SWPPP, we got additional funding and nominations. Please, if you know someone's interested, especially in those government elected official positions, please let them know. Have them contact us if they have any questions. We'll be glad to work them through the application and what all they need.
Sometimes I know at one point we talked about possibly allowing those elected officials to designate somebody to stand in for them. They didn't have to be elected. Is that the way it ended up, or?
Yeah, they do have the elected officials do have the ability to provide proxies to attend the meetings and participate. So we do have that, but they still have to be the ones that are serving in that capacity, the elected officials.
And the proxies can't vote.
And the proxies can't vote.
But they can attend the meeting, talk on behalf, bring up topics. Well, Yeah, bring up topic, I think. Yeah, bring up topics, but just can't vote.
Thank you all.
Oh, I have a question. I'm sorry. I know you said this. I just wasn't fast enough. On the tire report, we processed more tires than the year before. How much?
And that's going to be a topic that we'll cover in the in the meeting in July. And what we did is we did a much more involved, robust kind of following where we developed some applications where now we can actually follow those loads of the tires from place to place, from the time they get picked up at the generator to where they're to who transported them, to where they transported them, who processed them, and where they landed up at the very end. And so there was a shift in numbers, but as I'm looking at it, we actually managed just a smidget less.
Okay.
I believe than the year before. So again, the report's on the site, and come July, we'll definitely have a presentation for you. Perfect. Okay.
And Santos, can you please state when the position is going to open for the COG?
For the COG, so the deadline for getting applications in is June the 9th.
Okay.
But we'll accept applications starting now to even before the notice gets published, as we have on our website. That those positions are open and continue to be open, and we continue to accept applications.
Santos, I have a question. Maybe I've got this wrong. I think I understood you to say that we're landfilling 18% of our tires, and
that's what was reported.
48% is being put into tire-derived fuel. What's happening to the rest of them?
So we've got about 19% that are going into chrome rubber, and they may be going into asphalt, maybe going into AstroTurf, that kind of thing.
That's a purpose.
Sorry?
That's a purpose also.
Yes. We also got about 6% that were processed and may have stayed at the processor during the time of the reporting, because our report is from January 1 to December 31st. So they were still at the processor. They hadn't ended up at the final site. LAR putting, we got about 5%, and recycling is at about 4%, and beneficial use is about 2%. And so in the report, you'll find definitions as to what each of those categories means, description of that process.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Tom Parker. I just wanted to say one thing as well on those landfill stuff. Liberty Tire bought our tire recycling plant out, and I've kind of taken over the Texas market. So we are putting in a new facility in Austin, and we're currently moving a bunch of landfill tires that we're doing in Midlothian. We're actually starting to process those, but by the end of this year, first quarter next year, we should, as far as Liberty Tire is concerned, we won't be landfilling anymore. Just wanted to throw that out there. That's kind of my big project. So hopefully that'll make an impact when we start hearing these numbers down the road.
Thanks, Tom. All right, next up, we have Amy Sedemeyer with the Enforcement Division. And she's going to talk about, I think, two different things. One is the expedited compliance order that became effective December, is that or January? Okay. And then also the annual enforcement report. And that one, I had asked if we could just get a briefing on it, because I was working on a contract and the word enforcement was in it, and I wasn't clear what the definition of that was. And so I went on the TCEQ website and did some searching, and found out that there's two categories, and there's an NOV is an informal enforcement, and then there's an administrative enforcement. But as it applies to this, more importantly, there's an annual enforcement report that's prepared. And I wasn't aware of that, or if I were, it were many years ago and it has just slipped my memory. So anyways, I'll turn it over to you and look forward to hearing what you have to present to us today.
Just do a test if it's working over here. So thank y'all for having me. I am Amy Sedemeyer. I am with the Enforcement Division in the Office of Compliance and Enforcement, headquartered here in Austin. So we're going to give a few updates. We did just roll out what we're calling the Expedited Compliance Order. If you want to go to the next slide. So this was really a labor of love. And a lot of time. It took us about 2 years to pull it together. As we looked through it, we actually started with evaluating our PST cases. We get a high volume of PST enforcement actions every year. And so how could we move those more quickly through the system to get them out the door, get compliance, and just resolve those matters more efficiently. So really the goal of this is to achieve compliance faster and really help improve efficiencies within the division itself, right? And allow my folks to really focus on those cases that they should be focused on. You know, the really egregious actions that we have to deal with. And so it sets reduced penalties, and I'm going to walk through all of this. It also requires compliance. So you have to be able to achieve compliance within 60 days of us sending out the order to you. And if you can't, that's okay. We're just going to take you through the normal process, which is a more, it's still called expedited, but not quite as expedited as this. Next slide for me. We do believe we have the legal authority to do this. Commissioners agreed as well, because we have general enforcement authority over these matters. We are able to, one of the things that makes this process quicker is we don't have to develop a penalty calculation worksheet, which if you've ever been through enforcement, that's how we come up with your total fine or your total penalty. And we walk through all the steps that we're required to through statute. We're not required to do that worksheet. And so what we've done for the violations identified is set a penalty amount for that. That's a much reduced penalty, so we can just keep it moving forward. Next slide. So these are the eligible programs and the number of violations. As I said, you know, we started this with PST. We've got 75 violations for petroleum storage tank. Drinking water is our largest program where we identified appropriate violations. There is only one municipal solid waste violation that we felt was appropriate to include, and it is the actual disposal of waste without authorization at quantities that would classify as minor. And I can't tell you what those quantities are off the top of my head, but we're talking small quantities of waste disposal without authorization. Next slide. As we consider whether you're eligible, so when we get an enforcement action, we'll take a look in those first 7 to 10 days. If it has multiple violations on it, all violations on the enforcement action have to be eligible for the program to move into the program. If there is one violation on the NOE that we receive that isn't eligible, it goes traditional enforcement. They all have to be, as I mentioned, be able to be corrected within 60 days. It cannot be a suspected or confirmed release or spill, and it cannot meet the, it does not meet findings agreed order. So we're talking, those are, again, more serious prior actions. Those are the types of things that raise to the level of findings. Then we look at the respondent, right? So do they have active OAG cases? If they do, we're not going to let them go through this program. No pending or active shutdowns, no outstanding fees. You cannot have been offered the same respondent, same facility cannot have been offered the opportunity for ECO and gone through ECO for the same violation. Now, if you come and you have a different violation, or we've got big companies that have multiple sites, you can have ECO at multiple sites, not the same site. And then not a repeat violator or unsatisfactory performer when it comes to our compliance history universe. Other considerations, all ecos still have to go through the 30-day public notice period. We're required by statute to publish all of our enforcement actions in the Texas Register for 30 days before finalization. These have to go through that process as well. And they can still participate in supplemental environmental projects. So you can contribute to that third-party step if that's what you choose to do. Here's where we talk about the penalty. So really what we're looking at is a total reduction in our base penalty of 50%. Our normal expedited process includes the 20% deferral. We are, because you're already in compliance, we're giving you that 20% good faith effort for achieving compliance. And then the 10%, it says compliance history, but it's really all those other factors that could result in a penalty reduction when we're doing that worksheet. Compliance history is the biggest piece of that. High performers get a reduction. If you participate in the Audit Act, you get a reduction for those. So total, it's a 50% from base penalty. That was really fast on ECO, but does anybody have any questions before I move into annual enforcement report on expedited compliance order?
Do you have any? I was just curious, when you were saying that it wouldn't apply to a repeat violation at the same facility, is there a time frame that is evaluated over, kind of like compliant, like with fire on compliance history related to that, or is it
2 years is kind of where we set the marker. Now, if we're seeing every 2 years, you're coming up with we may be having a different conversation, right? Because that's certainly not set anywhere. That's a enforcement policy, right? That we're saying in 2 years is going to be that marker. And I would also say if the same company is having the same problem at every facility they have, I may also have a conversation with that company. It's might be a bigger issue for you guys, right? Because we're seeing it at every one of your facilities. But the thought is within that 2 year period, it really is a repeat violation that you shouldn't see get back quickly.
When did that program start?
We officially started mailing out our first ECO just a couple of weeks ago. So we got permission, we got approval from commission in February, and got everything tied up and ready to go mid-March. So we have hit the ground. We haven't sent a whole lot out yet, but I got my report this week, and I think we're mailing 20 next week. So we're definitely moving some cases, and again, it's really helping my folks be able to focus on the ones they need to be spending their time. And a lot of the violations, if you go look at the list, we're talking about reporting issues, small actual issues like the municipal solid waste one. We're not talking about anything that is no direct discharges of wastewater. Those aren't going to get to speak into this program. No air emissions. My air facilities aren't thrilled with the list because there aren't a whole lot of opportunity for my air folks to participate. But we try to be thoughtful. We'll always evaluate whether there's more violations that should be included, and kind of take that rolling look. But this is where we started for now.
That's a pretty robust list of numbers that you had this in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we're excited. Yeah. Between this and our enforcement diversion program, which is not my division, another division in OCE, it's kind of helping our caseload a little bit. Again, letting us focus on some of the more serious issues.
So procedurally, if a regulated entity receives a notice of violation letter, it would state in there that if it is applicable, that the ECO program is an opportunity, or how does that?
Yeah.
How do they?
So the way it'll work is if you get a notice of enforcement from the regional office, or we have some central office programs that send them, my folks will take that referral, and in that first 7 to 10 days, we will make a phone call. If we determine you're eligible, we'll make a phone call to the respondent and say, this is a new program. Are you eligible? Are you eligible? Are you interested? It requires you to come into compliance within 60 days. Can you do that? And if they say yes, then we offer out, ramp them into the ECO program. I suspect some will say no, right? Because that burden of trying to get into compliance in 60 days may be too much. But that's the way the process will work. You'll actually hear it from me. It won't be in any, my division. It won't be in any letter that comes from the region. It'll just be during our screening process. We'll make that evaluation. We won't be perfect. We'll probably miss some. And so what I've told the regulated entities I've talked to is, if you think you're eligible and you didn't get asked, ask. We'll take another look. So.
Thank you.
All right. So we do have an annual enforcement report. We are statutorily required to do this report, and we have to publish it by December 1st of each year. So we usually start working on it in August, with data collection really happening in September after the end of the fiscal year, with that report publishing December 1st. The statute also mandates what's included in it. So I've listed all these things. These are all the things that we have to statutorily include in the report. And not going to go through all of them, but next slide. So these are the different sections of the report, and I have a link at the end where you can go find it, but you also can just go to our TCEQ homepage and search for annual enforcement reporting. It'll take you right to the page. Next slide. I'm going to touch on these areas today. So our environmental toolbox, really, that's just the high level look of what we do to help the regulated community, local governments. So we talk about our coordination, our events that we do, the small business local government assistance program, and all the help that they do for entities. And then the enforcement diversion program is going to be a new addition this year because we did just roll that program out. I wanted to give you all a little bit of background on EDP. Again, it's not my program, but it does kind of tangentially correlate to my group. So it was came out of 88 legislative session. It's administered by our small business local government assistance section. And the big thing about that is if an entity is eligible for that, it never touches my division if they can successfully complete the program. It off-ramps to the EDP program. They work with them, try to get them into compliance. It comes with no penalties. And if they're successful, it gets away. And it never comes to enforcement. Slide. The environmental toolbox also includes our compliance and enforcement program. The informal side, as Jeffrey alluded to, we have informal enforcement and formal enforcement. So this is our investigations, the audit act that companies utilize to kind of assess their sites, compliance monitoring, and then notices of violation. And then we get into all the charts and graphs, and it's a lot of data in this report. And so I pulled some of the graphs. This number is our total investigations over the years. We stay pretty much around the same number, around that 100,000. The FY 2021 number did jump. We did a lot of desktop investigations that year. It was COVID. We were still in the middle of COVID times, and so lots of desktop things happening. Slide. Notice the violation. These are those informal actions. You do see that FY25 number jump. That's a lot of our lead and copper. With PWS, we saw an increase in notices of violation for that. Not necessarily an increase in enforcement actions, but definitely in the NOV space. Then I'll slide into formal enforcement. So these are all sections in the report. And again, we dig into all the data. So formal, we have both administrative enforcement and civil enforcement. I manage the administrative alongside my counterparts in the litigation division. We manage the administrative enforcement side of the house. Slide. So our orders issued over the years, again, we stay in the 1,000 range. That is actually our metric that we strive to meet every year. We're going to hit about 1,400 this year, I think, and we're all said and done next. This is the breakdown by media. So the red or maroon, I'm an Aggie, and that was orange when I took over the division 3 years ago. It's no longer orange. So the maroon is waste, and it stays pretty consistently. The proportions. I'll note water includes drinking water and all other water programs. So it's quite a large universe that we're dealing with there. Steps. This is just a interesting breakdown of how the costs come out. Next. And then civil judgments, just a snapshot of all of the judgments. You'll see there's some large numbers there. The last 2 years, we had a couple of really big judgments those 2 years against 2 entities, one each year. So that kind of threw those numbers up a little bit. Comparative analysis, again, breakdown of percentages. This is pretty similar year after year. About 20% of all judgments and orders is waste. And a big chunk of those are that PST universe. Again, percent of industry types. I don't think, 2%. So for municipal, for landfills. So not a huge percentage of what we see coming through the door every year. And then we start talking about we have a section on our compliance history. So next slide. Again, I brought this in here because I don't know if y'all are familiar, but we did just complete a rule revision for compliance history. And so I am trying to make sure everybody knows that it's out there. And one of the biggest pieces of the change is that moderate violations will now be included when calculating repeat violator status and other calculations. So before the rule change, it was just major violations. We are now and we were directed to do this by the legislature. We are now including all types of violations, so major, moderate, and minor. So as you can imagine, with 70% of our violations being moderate, that has an impact on the entity's compliance history score. We have tried to mitigate that by making sure it's not overly impactful with other areas that we made changes to, but there is an impact there.
Hey, on that
prior
slide, you were talking earlier about the expedited compliance. Do all those expedited compliance cases fit under minor category, or did you give them?
Most of them will be minor. There may be a few moderates. There should not be any majors on the expedited. And I will also note, a lot of the moderate violations we see are self-reported, which is why we tried to mitigate the impact some, because we don't want to discourage that self-reporting, right? And so we took that into consideration. But and I will also note the expedited compliance orders will show up on your history, right? You don't get a pass for having an history. Okay. This is another section. I know y'all know this, but we have to analyze all complaints. This next slide. So complaints received by media, again, water's the winner. And waste. And of those, I kind of dug in a little bit deeper. I can say about 500 of them were related to municipal solid waste, of the waste ones that we received. Breakdown of the ones received by the regional offices, obviously our Metro, Region 4, Region 12, 11, and 13. Those are our triangle cities or regions, so they get the highest volume, as one would expect. Nature of complaints, odor, it's what we get the most of always. And then you can see, municipal solid waste makes the list. We don't include all of them. We kind of pick the top 10 or it just keep going forever. And so we do see a decent number of complaints every year. This is our most common programs. Again, We don't put everything on the list, our top 6, again, air and wastewater. It's just what the regions see the most of. Full report is available online. Again, there's the link. And I would say just go to the homepage and search annual enforcement report. And you can see this one and all our previous reports. And it's very cool. We migrated a few years ago to a story map using ArcGIS. So it's a very interactive report online. If you're old school and want the PDF, you can do that too. We've got a copy there, but the story map's pretty cool.
Thank you. That, when I first opened it up, I was like, oh, how that is a lot of information.
It is a lot of information.
Presented different ways,
Yes.
and just interesting.
A lot of information from a lot of different parts of the agency that we pulled together in a couple of months pretty quickly. So it's a cool report.
Great.
Any questions? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Just kind of circling back to earlier in your presentation, you had mentioned that there was a program that can kind of streamline and help local government and small business. Trying to wrap my mind around what is a small business. And what I'm thinking about here is, let's say that a company has an operation here in Texas and they have 20 employees, but they also have other operations in other states. Where do you draw the line between, is it what you've got here in this state or what you've got as a whole corporation?
I don't know where they draw that line as far as the bigger corporation. I do know that it is, like, if it was just that one entity, that would be considered a small business, right? But I would have to ask that question and get you an answer, and I can do that because I don't actually know about if they do the research and whether you have a sister company or a parent company. I think ultimately they're going to do what they can to help, but ExxonMobil's not going to get their time, right?
Okay, yeah.
Is it based on the regulated entity?
It's based on the regulated entity and the size, and it's typically, I believe, 100 employees or less for small business.
Right.
But don't quote me on that.
That's what I've read when I was researching this for a client that I did some work for. And they had like about 20 people here in Texas.
Yeah.
But they had operations in other states, so weren't sure which way to go.
I mean, I would just recommend calling and asking. I think, and I should know because I used to work in that division, but it's been 15 years since I worked in or more, maybe. I think they're going to do what they can to help within their parameters, but I think there's nothing wrong with just calling and asking.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. Is it possible for us to get a copy of your slide, of your PowerPoint?
She has them, so yeah.
I just want to cascade it.
And my contact information's on the last slide, and anybody can reach out. Happy to chat, happy to answer any more questions anybody has.
Thank you again for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming and taking the time to put this together. And
Absolutely.
it's very informative. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me.
All right, our next agenda item is a presentation on the annual electronics recycling report, and that will be Alicia Foley. Welcome.
Good morning. Should I test this out again, see if it works? Oh, is that me? Awesome. Okay. Hello, my name is Alicia Foley. I'm in my 5th year here as a pollution prevention and recycling specialist. I work for the public education section of the external relations division here at TCEQ. Today, I'm going to present a high-level overview and a look at our 2 Texas electronics recycling programs that my team manages. My list of topics today will include a look at the Texas Recycles Computers program and the Texas Recycles TV programs. And then I'll also be sharing the types of outreach we perform and some recycling resources that we have on offer for excellence. There are currently 25 states with e-waste laws, plus the District of Columbia. States highlighted in red have passed some type of e-waste legislation between the years of 2003 and 2014. Texas passed its first recycling legislation in 2007, and that was the Texas Recycles Computers program. And then the Texas Recycles TVs program came along in 2011. Both of these programs are separate, but they have a lot of similarities. And I'll break it down further in future slides, but the similarities include many of the responsibilities for manufacturers, consumers, retailers, and recyclers within each program. Both programs define a manufacturer as a person that manufactures covered television or computer equipment under a brand the person owns or is licensed to use. They both require that manufacturers offer equipment for sale. Before they offer equipment for sale in or into Texas, they must offer consumers a free and convenient recycling program for their qualifying branded equipment. And they also require that each manufacturer provides the agency with a link that consumers can access with that recycling information and how they can have their materials collected. Both programs also require an annual report from all manufacturers. This is due every year, January 31st, and we combine both the computer and television annual reports into one report that we then send to the state legislature. Each program has different requirements for the report, though, and then we just collect the information and put it together. And I'll get into some of those specifics in a little bit as well. For both programs, a consumer is an individual who uses computer or television equipment that's purchased primarily for personal or home business use. And really the main regulatory requirement for consumers is that they are responsible for the electronic information should they choose to submit their materials for recycling. So if they have computer data, it's their responsibility to get that wiped prior to recycling, or if they don't wipe it, that's on them. A retailer is defined as a person who owns or operates a business that sells new covered television or computer equipment by any means directly to a consumer. And this does include online sales, regardless of whether the seller has a presence here in Texas or not. And both programs require that retailers cannot order or sell products from television or computer manufacturers if they're not on our TCEQ manufacturer list, which we host online. And I'll talk more about that too. They can only sell it if it also has permanently and clearly labeled brand information on those materials. And then recyclers are defined as person who separates collected equipment and refurbishes that equipment for reuse or processes the equipment to be returned to use in the form of raw materials or products. Both programs have adopted as standards for recycling or reuse of covered equipment certain portions of the standards in electronics recycling operating practices as approved by the Board of Directors of the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries, or ISRI, as of 2006, which I believe is now REMA. And then the remaining portions of those standards are voluntary unless they're required by other laws. So now I'm going to break down each program a little bit deeper. Not crazy detailed, but just, again, still kind of high level, and just show you some of the differences between the programs. The Texas Recycles Computers program is the one I'm responsible for. It went into effect in 2008, so we're almost at the 20th year of the program, which is really exciting. And in addition to processing and publishing reports, I also perform program audits that include making sure all of the manufacturer recycling links on our manufacturer list are up to date and provide the correct information that's required by the laws. I also search for computer brands that are being sold into Texas. And if I see any that I would be able to just buy as a consumer, I will reach out to those manufacturers and let them know about the regulations and what's required. I'll talk more about it with TV. TV registration requires a registration every year and a fee, but the computer program does not require that. It requires a registration, but it's only one time and there's no fee associated with it. And then we ask that folks update their registration information should anything change. And that would be like contact information, their recycling link. Per the rules, they have to let us know, I think it's 30 days prior to the change of their link, which doesn't always happen or doesn't really ever happen. So that's why we track all the links and we perform audits every few months and make sure that they're all still working. And then I will reach out to them and tell them that their link is broken and ask for a new one. And they're really fast at getting those back to us typically. This is what's covered equipment, covered computer equipment. It includes desktop computers, laptop computers, tablets are also included. Monitors without tuners, because those would be considered televisions. And then it actually includes any of the accompanying mice and keyboards as well. Oh, and tablets are 4 inches or larger, and that's kind of how we define tablet versus cell phone. We actually have Harbor Freight is one of our manufacturers because they produce some tablets that do testing on vehicles for what's wrong. And some of them actually have access to the internet and other applications as well. So those ones are considered part of the program, whereas some of their other ones that are only very specific for the car diagnostics are not. And folks can just reach out to us and we sort of perform an investigation on their products and look at all the specs and decide if they fit within the rules or not. And like I mentioned previously, the manufacturers have to be on the TRC list in order for their products to be sold by either themselves directly or by any retailer in the state of Texas. We do keep this up to date. This is what I perform my audits on and make sure that all the links are available. And then we also have our webmaster that will update us pretty regularly as well, which is really nice, and let us know if there's any broken links. As of the 2025 report, which was published on March 1st, we have 61 computer manufacturers and they represent 100 brands. That are currently registered and compliant with these rules. In 2025, 3.4 million pounds of computer equipment was collected for recycling and reuse by the manufacturers or by whatever entity they paid to do that collection for them. And our report is online on both the Texas Recycles Computers webpage and the TV webpage, which I'll list what that is in a little bit. This is just a table directly from our report showing the last 5 years of the amounts collected, recycled, and reused for computer equipment from the manufacturers again. And I just wanted to clarify that the reuse amount is not zero. It's just so much smaller than the collected and recycled amounts that it really doesn't ever show up on our table. But I would say it's like tens of thousands for each year for the reused, but most of them recycle the majority of their materials. And then the Texas Recycles TVs program. I'll talk about some of the differences here. My colleague Rose Churchill is the program manager for this one. And like I said, we collaborate every year on the annual report as well as some other projects and program outreach together. So we have our separate programs. Our rules are slightly different, but we collaborate together a lot and we'll help each other out. I'm her backup if she's ever off. So I do also help out and answer TV questions, and she'll do the vice versa for computers. Because part of our roles also is to answer questions from the public. We get a ton of emails and calls asking where to recycle computers and TVs. And so that's a part of our function as well. This program went into effect in 2012, so we're in year 14 of this program. Their list can be found at texasrecyclestvs.org. The computer one is texasrecyclescomputers.org. And like I said, you can find our annual report on either of those, and that's also where we each have our manufacturer list. One example of kind of a difference for the television program is that there are additional requirements for retailers. For TVs, they have to provide consumer information published by the TCEQ about the legal disposal and recycling options for their TVs. It has to be in writing, and it can be included in like the sales receipt or part of the packaging, or it can even be offered through a toll-free telephone line or website. And another difference is that the TV recyclers have to register with the TCEQ and submit a notice of intent to operate a recycling facility with attachment F included. This is very different from the computer program, as really the only requirement for recyclers for the computer program is that they have to follow the sound management rules. And then covered TV equipment. It's anything that's market or any of these items that are marketed to and intended for consumers. It means, I'm not going to read all of that, but you can see like cathode ray, plasma, there's all kinds. And it's also computer monitors that have the television tuner. So there's one specific differentiation between the computer monitors for the computer program and for the TV program. Like I said, they have their own list as well. The website is up there at texasrecyclestvs.org. It also links to the collection methods. Every TV manufacturer that sells within Texas has to also have their own link and recycling methods. And honestly, most TV manufacturers work with MRM. That is who kind of manages all of this stuff for most television manufacturers. And then there are some computer manufacturers that also work with MRM. So that's where most of these links are honestly going to go at any given time. So the biggest difference with the television program is that manufacturers can participate through a couple different routes. The first one is market share allocation, and that's currently what all TV manufacturers do. They can do it individually or with a group. This is sort of where, with a group, MRM would be that entity that does all the reports, pays all the fees for them, and manages all their paperwork. But they still all each have an individual registration fee, and each manufacturer is required to submit an annual report. And then there's the Recycling Leadership Program, which currently no one is part of, but has been used in the past. And that was put in the rules so that to prevent the potential need to change the rules in the future if manufacturers could not hit their market share allocation. And the market share allocation, manufacturers participating in the market share allocation must collect, reuse, and recycle the quantity of covered television equipment computed by the commission in the previous year. My colleague Rose sends these out, I believe, by November 1st every year. And this number is calculated and shared. It's established by computing the ratio of the weight of total collected covered television equipment to the total weight of covered television equipment sold. So collected TVs to sold. And then they also do some calculation with the census numbers as well. I don't deal with part of that, so I don't know the details, but if you have any questions, I can definitely send you to my colleague Rose. But every year after each report, they have to calculate what this market share allocation is. And it's different for every manufacturer. So they send it individually to every single one by November 1st, so that they know next year what their number is that they have to collect. Oh, and if you're in the market share allocation, you do have to pay the registration fee, whereas with the RLP, which I'll go into details, you don't have to. That's one of the benefits. So the RLP program, the Recycling Leadership Program, is unique to Texas with our electronics legislation. And like I said, it was developed to assist manufacturers who might not be able to reach their market share allocation for collecting their equipment. If they participate in an RLP, they don't have to pay a registration fee at all. They're exempt from that. And again, they don't have to collect the market share, but they have to provide at least 200 individual collection sites or programs where a consumer can return their TV equipment. And those can be like single day events that would count as one collection, or they can be like an ongoing program where you can bring things like to Best Buy or have an ongoing drop off, and those will all count. They also would have to provide public outreach and inform consumers on what to do with their equipment. And then they would still have to report every year, but only a list of the manufacturers in their RLP, and then documentation showing their qualifying outreach, as well as the list of their 200 collection programs or sites. And then every other year, they would have to submit more of like an annual report. And it's going to be a little bit different than the report that's submitted by folks who are participating in the market share allocation side of it. And then they would have to show that they're hitting every mark within the legislation. So it's a little bit more of a complicated report if they're in the RLP. And as of 2025, there were 23 manufacturers representing 39 brands. There's always a good chunk fewer TV manufacturers than computer manufacturers out there. And like I said, no one's in an RLP currently. I don't think we've had anyone in an RLP since like 2016. So it's been a while. Pretty much everyone does their market share, and they pretty much always hit their market share too, as far as I'm aware. They collected 13.2 million pounds of TVs for reuse and recycling in 2025. And I'll show, this is just a little clip of our annual report as well, where it shows the last 5 years of collected TVs from manufacturers. This one stays pretty consistent over time. Computers, there's a lot more variation, which you'll see in this graph. So this is the lifetime collection totals. You can see orange is computer. That's a lot more variable. Television started a few years later, and that has changed a little bit over time, and then it got pretty consistent. And then that additional weight is the purple, but that's only for computer. For television, there's no line item on the annual report for any additional weight. But for computer manufacturers, if they collect anything that's outside of the covered computer equipment, they can just voluntarily report that or not to us, and then we also report that. Again, our report to the legislature, so their reports are due to us January 31st of every year. And then we compile all that data and consolidate it for both TVs and computers. And we have to submit our report to the state legislature by March 1st every year. So we have about a month to get that turned around. And then we also have to post that on our website by the same day. We've been getting it done pretty early. Both my colleague Rose and I have been with these programs for a few years. So we're able to get these reports currently turned around really fast, which is really nice because that 1 month used to be a little stressful until you get used to it. In total, over 17 million pounds collected TVs and computers together in 2025. And like I said before, you can find these reports linked on both of our websites with the manufacturer links. You can scroll all the way down, and we list every report since the beginning of these programs on our websites currently. We might be reducing that to just the last few years because we're doing some web page updates, but currently you can find them all. And now for some program outreach. We created these plug into electronics recycling stickers a few years ago. That QR code will lead people to our main electronics recycling webpage, which then branches off into the 2 different pages for folks, and then has a couple of additional links and pieces of information for folks about where to recycle different things. Part of the TV recycling program, The registration fee pays for a toll-free telephone line that the TCEQ manages. It goes to our division main line, and then the calls are then forwarded to my colleague Rose. We also, like I said, answer a lot of questions from folks. They can either email us to the recycle email that I put up here, or we get a lot through the info box as well and through other areas of TCEQ, and they just forward them to us. So we'll basically help people find recycling options in their area. And then we also offer compliance assistance through our website. We have a lot of information out there, but any manufacturer can call Rose or I, and we'll walk them through all the requirements, the regulations, and basically give them one-on-one assistance for how to be compliant with the program. And we'll make sure that they understand everything and know how to do it. It's more of like a hand-holding situation than like we won't bring the hammer down on them because we want them to be compliant. And then just some general resources and outreach. My team does a lot of general recycling outreach and education as well. And so we often collaborate with the Take Care of Texas team here at TCEQ, and we will help them with blogs. We'll be the subject matter expert for some of their blogs, and we'll review them. We've also written blogs for them that they've published on their website. We attend a lot of events. We give presentations like what I'm doing today. We'll run booths. I'm going to be at the STAR Summit in May. So that's an example of where I'll be running a booth, and I'll have kind of all this information as well as some of our recycling information. This is an example of a brochure that we updated. It belongs to our team, and we did a new update, I think a few years ago now. And so we've been updating a lot of our information that we can offer. Those are on the Take Care of Texas website, as well as a few other things. And those are all free for anyone who lives in Texas who wants to order them. And then I did want to do a quick mention of our monthly casual recycling talks. This is something that we started 2.5, 3 years ago now. They've grown substantially. I think we had Risa on a call just a month or two ago, which was a lot of fun. Awesome. We were so glad to have you. It was fantastic. We host these calls every month. They're virtual, so they're on Teams. Anyone from the state of Texas can join. They are about recycling and then kind of anything related to recycling. We try to have a presenter on for 10 to 20 minutes, and then we open the floor for an open discussion. It's a great place for anyone we have a lot of municipal recyclers on there, and then we have a lot of people who work with like KTB affiliates and stuff. I think that would be like our main group of people. We also have HHW program managers. I'm the HHW program coordinator here at TCEQ as well. That's the other half of my job. And we've had so many people meet other folks there and collaborate and ask questions and share challenges. And then there have been other people who have shared information that's helped them. So it's a great place for people to get with other folks that do similar things with them across the state. We usually do it on like the 3rd or 4th Tuesday every month. And that QR code goes to our subscription through GovDelivery. And I host those along with my colleague Juliana, who's there in the back. We lead those calls every month. So if you want to join, feel free. I think that they're great. And then I always bother people for presentations because I'm the person that has to hunt down a presentation every month. So I'm always reaching out to folks. And then finally, there's my contact information. I would say the best way to reach us on our team is through the recycle email, because that will always get to someone no matter what. My colleague Rose and I monitor that box as well as a couple other people. That is a great way to get in touch with us if you have any questions or want to see anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Alicia. It's great. Do you have any initiatives going on, nickel cadmium, like little batteries, all the problems we're having with fires and trucks?
No, but that has been a really big topic for our casual recycling talks. We actually just had someone, it was more HHW collection focused, but we had someone come in and give some information about how to store those because HHW collections are having that issue as well, and they're worried about fires in their collection. So we're constantly gathering information in the little streams that we have where people are asking for that and connecting them with whatever resources we
I
find.
mean, the batteries, the ubiquitous of this, the commonness of it, is really becoming exceptional. And it was for a while, you know, they were on high-end tools, things like that. Those tend to be managed somewhat well, but now you can go to a kid's store and anything that makes noise or shoots water or blows bubbles, it's got nickel cadmium battery on it, and they're just all going.
Yeah.
A lot of them are recycled.
Yes, that's our number one message is don't put any batteries in recycling. Because that's very problematic because we don't want fires starting at MRFs in the trucks. So we do put some information out. I know Take Care of Texas is putting out a battery kind of like infographic pretty soon. They also post blogs about it. And that's a lot, just general batteries, especially we kind of focus on lithium ion since that's the rechargeable battery in everyone's electronics, especially. But yeah, we put as much information out there it's mostly directed to consumers and households for what to do and what not to do. Other question?
So based on what Chuck was describing, generated a question. Chuck, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but do you know if an organization like WRA has considered potential bills for the legislature on the battery issue?
I don't know. I did do some research on their website recently and didn't get a whole lot of good advice as to what to do with batteries other than check your local recycler type thing.
Yeah. This might be a topic that would make sense I can bring it up to Texwana. Maybe y'all can run the traps and see if there's a potential for legislation to be considered.
I'm not sure what it would be, but yeah.
I know some other states have put forth legislation. I don't know a lot of the details of what that legislation includes, but it's just.
This is Rich Abramowitz. There was a number of battery bills in lots of states. As a matter of fact, Wisconsin governor just signed one yesterday. 8 states or so now have portable and medium format battery bills. There was a bill in the legislature last year that was a bad one. I think there probably will be one next year as well, as a lot of states are trying to pass battery bills. So, and I know SWANA has a working group on a battery legislation, and REMA has a working group on it. So a lot of organizations have working groups on battery bills as well. But we could get a presentation if you want from somebody at the next meeting about battery bills around the country.
Yeah, I think that would be very, very helpful, Rich, if that's something you could do or facilitate.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. Any other questions for Alicia or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again.
Next we have Steve, and I don't know, Rich, is Rich also tagging the presentation talking about the Texas Recycling Initiative, Infrastructure Economic Development Initiative team, the TRIEDIT, and that report that came out,
in January.
and I'll turn it over to you, Steve.
All right. Rich, I'll give an introduction history and then you can come in on the slides.
Yep, I will share my screen, or if you want me to share it now, I could do that.
Well, you can now, maybe that
Anna.
first slide.
Yep.
That way. You can pass these in. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to present this project to the MSWRRAC for your edification and consideration. This TRIEDIT is an acronym that I came up with on my back porch because we were trying to figure out what to call this thing. And it represents, it's an acronym meaning Texas Recycling Infrastructure Economic Development Initiative Team. And this basically came about as a result of the Recycling Market Development Plan, which identified that we have a dearth of recycling infrastructure, particularly in the rural and some urban areas in Texas. That RMDP indicated that in order to be equal to the generation of recyclables that we have, that we needed something like 25 new MRFs in the state. And the ones that we have are in urban areas, rightfully so, just because of the economics of transportation. But there is a considerable amount of desire on the part of rural communities to recycle. The challenge is to developing infrastructure. And by infrastructure, we mean collection systems, MRFs, transfer stations, etc. This TRIEDIT was the culmination of 2 years of effort that was initiated after the Recycling Market Development Plan. There were several stakeholders, initiative team members that brought a lot to this effort, and those include the Texas Economic Development Council, which represents the 725 local economic development corporations here in Texas. The Texas Association of Regional Councils was involved. Keep Texas Beautiful, the Recycling Partnership, which is a brand, packaging brand owner financed agency to help finance recycling programs. The Capital Area Council of Governments was heavily involved in this. State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, Austin Community College, the CAPCOG Economic Development Corporation, many players that came to the table to help make this happen. We had some just absolutely magnificent speakers and panelists at this day-and-a-half event, which occurred almost a year ago now. And those include several people that are members of the MSWRRAC. I'd like to first mention our former president, Mr. Dave Yonke, was a major presenter. Scott Pasternak, sitting close by here, was. Rock Lively was a presenter. Ken May was involved in it. Myself and Richard Abramowitz. And there were many that you can see from the hard copy, and you also have an electronic copy. The speakers that were there from the economic development community of McLennan County, Waco, the Greater Houston Partnership, the Houston Galveston Area Council of Governments, and so on. And what this was there's really never been up to this point in Texas that we were aware of, a coalescence of the various players, including the public, local government, the recycling industry, and the economic development industry. If these things are going to happen in the rural areas, it's obviously going to have to happen as a matter of, principally as a matter of economic development and job creation. The only way that that's going to happen is through coalescence of local governments in a particular area. And here, I guess we're talking about, interlocal agreements, working together to be able to plan, pull these tons together where they can achieve economy of scale. So what the TRIEDIT findings report is basically is a roadmap, a guide aimed at the public, local government officials, so that they can look and see all of the different elements and things that they need to think about and plan for in order to be able to get to a decision to whether they decide whether they or not they want to invest in local recycling infrastructure. This was also supported very generously by a TCEQ grant through CAPCOG. We appreciate that very much. The event was very well attended. Let me see, Rich, I might just have a couple other things to say here.
Sure.
Subsequently to this report being produced, it has been presented to the Council of Governments Solid Waste Planners Association and was well received there. We have received inquiries recently from the Texoma COG, also from the Houston-Galveston Area Council COG, trying to look at this further to see if this is something that they can use to promote the development of recycling infrastructure in their areas. And we've gotten some other inquiries as well. So we're excited about it. There was a lot of people that put a lot of time, sweat, and effort into this. I think that Texas has a tremendous opportunity, but the solid waste industry itself is not going to go out into a 5 or 6 or 10 county area and spend 4 or 5 years as an unpaid consultant working with all these communities to try to pull them together to the point where they can make a decision. Furthermore, at that point, it's going to be put out for bid probably anyways, public-private partnerships, where it's going to have to start with the local governments themselves coming together and coalescing. I know that not a lot of this has been done here in Texas, but it has been done in several other states successfully. Hoping to replicate that here. And with that, Rich, take it away, buddy.
Thank you, Steve. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Anna, were you able to mirror or duplicate my computer in the room there?
We can see it.
Okay, great. Perfect. So I'm going to focus primarily on the summary report that Steve put together. But actually I say Steve, but we all put together yeah, a lot of people. This was this deck was done with the help of Gigi Gephardt as well, and as Steve said, there was a lot of effort. We approached this mainly as a way to take an additional look at the recycling market development plan and see if there are ways that we can take some of those items identified, challenges and opportunities identified in that report and make them a reality. And so we start with the major challenges identified by the Texas Recycling Market Development Plan, especially in the rural areas, the lack of processing facilities, long distances to transport material, increased costs. The rural regions lack economy of scale, and there's a significant amount of material that's being landfilled and lost from the circular economy. What infrastructure is required? Collection systems, transportation network, transfer stations, material recovery facilities, processing facilities, and of course, some manufacturers using recycled feedstock based on consumer demand for recycled feedstock in their products. I'm not going to go through this whole slide, the benefits of increasing the use of recycled material, except that one of the major things that we hit on was the job creation for both local and regional economies and the growth of secondary materials markets. One of the models that has proven time and time again to work is the hub and spoke, and Brock Lively spoke about his program as an example. But regional processing facilities, local collection spokes leads to lower capital investment. It's a scalable and it's efficient, and it's logistics. And again, it's a proven model that works and can be replicated on a larger scale than we currently have in Texas right now. So the key findings, Texas has a large untapped recycling capacity. A lot of public-private partnerships are essential. Hub and spoke models work for the regional development and feeding materials into the larger MRFs in the more urban areas. And recycling aligns with economic development priorities. So the opportunity for Texas investing in recycling infrastructure strengthens local economies, supports circular manufacturing opportunities, connects the economic development folks with the recycling professionals, and can propel recycling to be a leader in recycling driven economic development. There is the opportunity, as Steve said, and to get the economic development folks with the recyclers and local governments. And the goal of this project was to really create a template that can be replicated in multiple regions around the state. This is Steve and my contact information, if anybody wants to reach out to us. And that's it. Any questions?
Questions to members or comments?
I would like to just make this final comment. It was just astonishing the enthusiasm and exuberance that the people brought to this conference, not only the speakers and the presenters, but the attendees. There's a real hunger for this. And it was obvious through this that the economic development community is ready to invest in this industry. Local government is interested in investing in this industry. The recycling community itself that operates MRFs and facilities and infrastructure are ready to do this. We just need an opportunity to coalesce. And so we're hopeful that this will be helpful. I'd like to ask some of the people, Scott, Dave, you all were involved in this. Do you have any comment or anything you'd like to say?
We had a chance to speak there, and there was a lot of interest on it. It's just getting the parties together for it. That's the biggest challenge. But the opportunities are there. But it's going to take a group of folks that are vested in this that want to make it move forward. That's one of the biggest challenges. Last thing I'll say, I think what is interesting that all the economic development organizations, that was a new twist to it, where there's a lot of interest there. So that's a resource that historically has not been tapped.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dave. Give me a second to think of something meaningful to say, which is there's a lot of work that's being done by other states. Earlier, Santos talked about the SWPP programs. So that's provided some really nice funding from a planning perspective. And I know that there's several other states that are facing very similar issues to what we have here in Texas. And so I think, learning from each other as far as what the challenges and solutions are can be very helpful. And I think my biggest takeaway there is that, unfortunately, I don't think there is a silver bullet in all this. And it's a lot of what you were describing, Steve, as far as just really needing that have folks roll up their sleeves and making dedicated effort this happen. So I really appreciate everything that you and Rich, I know there were a bunch of others, but I know that you guys both put a tremendous amount of effort into this. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks everybody that participated in this thing. I've been to other states, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and you can be out in the middle of nowhere and there's a recycling container out there. There's a trash container there, there's a recycling container there. And they've done that through development of rural, regional approaches. What's happened? So we hope that this makes a difference, that it creates a spark, that it gives people something that they can use to guide their decision-making process. A region would have to spend a considerable amount of time and effort investigating and evaluating their situation to come to the point to see if it makes economic sense for them or not. And it's not, it won't work in some places just because the economics aren't there. In some places it can work. In some places it won't work because folks are too worried about who beat who in football last year and ran the score up, right? They're not gonna start thinking about regionalization when they still got those kinds of thoughts on their mind. But I can tell you, from what I hear from people, there's a real hunger for this. They want to be able to have recycling in their area. So with that, we would like to offer the opportunity if the MSWRRAC feels as though they would like to convey this document to the commissioners, then we think that would be great. If that is not the will of the council, then Rich and I will forward this to the commissioners personally, and anybody that would like to be signatory to that transfer letter is welcome to do so. So that ends my presentation, sir.
Okay.
Hey, real quick, can you all hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, and I offered this at TRIEDIT, and I've offered it several times. If anybody wants to come to Plainview and look at our operation and how we've set up our hub and spoke, there's an open invitation anytime. Just give me a holler. And I like showing off my guys. So.
Thoughts or comments on Steve's ask? Sounds like either way he's going to that.
It'll get to them one way or the other. Yes, sir.
Do we need a motion to move that forward, or how do we proceed on that? If so, I'll make a motion that we do just that.
If that were the case, it'd be a motion to present the report to the commission.
Or convey it to them.
Yeah, I guess, right, provide.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any discussion on this? Is there any thoughts on the fact that it would be conveyed or provided to them, I should say?
Yeah, maybe say something like following a presentation to MSWRRRAC. MSWRRRAC decided that it would be of value to convey this report to the commissioners for their review. subject to enforcement.
If this were to occur, how, like procedurally, what happens? How does?
So this would be, honestly, I think we send it to them with we'll either come, right now, I think we type up a memo and provide the report saying y'all voted on it. If it passed, here it is. And send it to them. And because that's how I hear the motion right now. So we would provide it to them. It does not sound like you're proposing anything else, other actions at this point. But that is based on the motion.
That's what I was hearing too. Any other discussion or comments? So I guess we have a motion then and a second. I guess we'll vote then. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so the motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Steve, you said we had an electronic version of this?
It's my understanding that
It's in the backup.
I missed that. I just looked on my email trying to find it and I still couldn't find it. But, if you did it, I'll find it.
Okay, we are almost out of time here, so pass it on to Samantha, who is going to talk about the MSWRRAC curriculum guidance.
Yes, so I'm Samantha Royal. I'm with occupational licensing here at TCEQ. The training work group within occupational licensing is in charge of working with training providers, providing curriculum guidance on overall and specialty license types. And for this specific curriculum guidance, we were requested to do one on the composting specialty. We have developed one with the assistance of some MSCs here from the advisory council. So let me stop and say thank you to those of you who put input into this and gave us guidance on this. It is in its final stages. We would like to invite anyone else with composting experience to come, not to review the document, just to put your input and see if you have anything else that you would like to add or remove. And you can get that from us via email, and I've provided Anna with our email. You can also get our email from our website, licenses. Teresa?
I just want to say, I just had a conversation yesterday with another member of the Texas Compost Council Board, and both of us have every intention of giving you more comprehensive comments on that very long, extensive curriculum that you provided to us. So I will get with her and make sure that, we both do it quickly. My general observation from reviewing that curriculum, and I'll put this in writing, is that there are several items in there that are really not appropriate for compost facility managers or operators, because it is something that must be done by PE. Design elements, that they'll never in a million years get involved in. That's my 100,000 foot observation, but I'll make sure that you get written comments from both of us.
And that's kind of what we're looking for. Y'all have the industry experience, and there's only so much we can get from reading and learning.
I can also tell you that I am the brand new, as of just a few days ago, commissioner of the U.S. Composting Council Certification Commission. And that body has said that they would be very interested in seeing this curriculum, and all of them, or, a number of them, would like to review it and comment on it.
Perfect.
I don't know what the time frame is for them to do that, though.
I can definitely get with you via email outside.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry I've delayed until now.
No problem. You have plenty of things going on. We just wanted to open the floor for anyone else with composting experience that also may want to review that document.
So this
We
is going to be a standalone MSW license for composting.
Sorry, let me clarify that. This will be in assistance with what is already outlined as far as requiring a specialty composting course when you get a license A or B that requires composting in the facility. And we don't have currently a curriculum guidance just for that specialty compost course. This is clarifying that.
It's the specialty compost course that is required for operators of permitted and registered facilities, right?
Correct.
But not all the rest of them.
Right.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
That's all I
Appreciate
have.
it.
Thank you.
Minutes. So we received a hard copy of the minutes in our folders and it was emailed to us by Anna last week, I think, in the packet. So anybody have any, take a second for a very quick review. Anybody has any edits, let us speak up. Or if not, we'll look for a motion to approve. Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Scott and Scott. Okay, motion in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Action items and Q&A. Well, I wrote down two things here, the scrap tire annual report, and this is actually for next time, and battery bills around the country. Presentation, but what, is there anything else, Anna, that you have?
We're gonna look into the file upload, see if OCP has, how they're doing it. And then I also have some slides for the enforcement to y'all.
Yeah.
And then once the MSWRRAC packet, the welcome packet.
Very good. Any public comments and closing remarks?
If you're on the phone, press star 5 to raise your hand. Anybody?
Okay.
Is there anybody on Teams? Raise your hand.
Okay. Next meeting is July 9, and I thank everybody for their time and input today. Have a great spring.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.